Well, after several months of completely avoiding the Bureau project, I finally completed it and I have the legendary tier Italian cruiser Napoli once again. Took it out for a game last night, and that is the match you see starting before you. Apologies if you hear any noise in the background. It is currently storming at the time of the recording of this video, so you might hear some thunder. But anyway, this video is not so much about the Napoli as it is about map awareness. Map awareness keeps you alive, as Brutus says. You can hear him growling there a little bit in the background in agreement. That's right, Brutus. Map awareness is a good thing, and map awareness is what is going to keep us alive in this game, along with, to be fair, the Napoli's armor. For a cruiser, the Napoli is exceptionally tanky. It's very near Petro level, actually. In fact, it's probably better than Petro, given that it has nearly 60,000 hit points, whereas the Petro has about 44,000. The armor schemes, though, on the two ships are fairly similar. The Napoli has very robust side armor and upper belt armor for a cruiser, as well as pretty good deck armor. It's even got an icebreaker on the bow, although the top part of the bow is overmatchable by pretty much any battleship you will encounter. So, as long as you know how to angle, this ship can tank quite a bit of damage. And we're going to do a little bit of that here, as well as position ourselves in creative ways to avoid being spotted by the enemy team and therefore shot at by them. Try to walk you through the game as things occur. I kind of wish I had been recording live commentary at the time to give you my thought process as things unfolded, but I'll do my best in post. In any case, we've spawned on Haven south of the Bravo Cap along with most of our teammates. The others have gone up toward Charlie, which is a good thing. Oftentimes, people don't even play that side of the map because of the way the spawns are skewed toward this side. Really wish Wargaming would fix that at some point, but it's just nice to see that somebody is, in fact, playing the Charlie flank. Of course, the friendly Yamato goes down as first blood after eating a faceful of Shimakaze torpedoes that I'm sure nobody could have predicted would be coming if, you take your big legendary tier battleship and just push it straight in toward the direction of the enemy team. No way torpedoes are going to hit you, right? Well, just ask that Yamato. In any case, we are hard spotted right now, which is a little bit of a problem because we're being spammed by some HE cruiser. Judging by the low amount of shells, I think it's the enemy Tulsa. But we've also got the Republique over there that could theoretically shoot at us, and the Republique does have big scary guns. So we want to try to break this line of sight. We know the Shimakaze is somewhere over toward the left of the screen, near where he was last spotted after sinking Yamato. So we're going to deploy this smoke screen and use it as concealment so we can turn broadside through this gap without being spotted and wrecked by either the enemy Napoli or the Republique. We'll launch some torpedoes into that gap in case either one of those red ships should decide to push out. But we have succeeded in our goal, which was to go unspotted by Shimakaze, who's been picked up by our teammates there. In fact, I don't really know how he got spotted. I don't think it was radar or anything. Well, maybe it was radar, courtesy of the Giuseppe Verde. But the Shima's going to get away. I suspect another wall of skill is incoming toward that battleship, and hopefully he realizes the same thing. Now that we flipped around, we launch torpedoes off the other side, and there we do see the wall of skill from the Shimakaze. It'll be very easy to avoid for us, however, and it looks like the Giuseppe Verde was spared from the worst of it. Gonna open fire again on the Conqueror. He's on very low HP, but he is angled, so our guns, which, by the way, are quite large for a cruiser. I think they're 254 millimeters. They're not going to really have the penetration or the damage to take out that Conqueror, but Republique is still trying to play with fire and broadside. He's got 32 millimeter plating everywhere, so our armor piercing should be able to pen that and deal some at least decent damage, and there it does. Napoli, though, pushing out. He is angled. We're going to shoot up into his superstructure. Not expecting a whole ton of results, but we may actually have to switch to the HE, in fact, in a situation like this. But I want you to take a look at the map. We've got our solitary blue destroyer in Bravo. He's capping it uncontested. We've got 3 ships to the north of Bravo hiding behind that island, plus the nearly dead Conqueror a little bit further back. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, I think it's an even 3v3 between the Reds and Blues. Nobody's really going after the Charlie cap. They're all sort of meeting there near the northern end of that cap and, I guess, dueling. And we are still basically in the same place where we started, but we've now gone dark, which tells us one thing. The Shimakaze does not have line of sight on us. He must be behind the island that is directly in front of us. That's the only possible place he could have gone and not be spotting us at the same time while we're shooting here from behind the island. So we see a bit of an opportunity here. We know that those ships, the Napoli, the Republique, and whatever else, are behind that island. Their line of sight is blocked. They can't see us. They probably can't shoot at us. The Conqueror has been sunk. So if we push in toward the Bravo cap, we might actually be able to enter it and maybe at this point cross the map to get broadsides on the enemy ships around that island, or maybe we'll go over toward the other side of the map and just support our destroyer in Charlie. But what do you know? I was right about the Shimakaze, and this was just, frankly, a bit of luck that he happened to pull out 5 kilometers away from me. I guess he forgot about my existence. I'm sure my last known location on the map was marked, but perhaps he wasn't thinking I would push in so aggressively. And now he really doesn't have a chance to get away. I think he already launched his torpedoes at the Giuseppe Verde, so all he can do is run. Our SAP secondaries are actually making contact with him a little bit and taking his HP, but it's the main guns with the HE that end up taking out the Shimakaze. And that right there, you would think essentially spells victory for the blue team, but not necessarily. In any case, we have achieved our goal. We're having to use a smoke screen here to make sure we don't get spotted and shot, but we are going to get behind this island and remove ourselves from the line of fire from these 3 ships, the Republique, the other Napoli, and I think there's a Tulsa back there. We've got torpedoes on the way, and we're going to hang out here in this position behind the island, waiting for the Republique to push forward, because we may be able to get some juicy shots into his broadside. Although at the same time, we do want to be careful. Let's take another look at the minimap. We know that those 3 ships are behind this island, but there's an Alaska up in the enemy's spawn cap Alpha, and if you'll note the way I'm facing, I'm flat broadside to him. So if I shot here, A, I don't think my shells would actually clear the island, and B, I would instantly be spotted by the Alaska, who would presumably have access to my citadel. You can see him there. We're looking at him now. That would not be a great thing. And also Kronstadt is over there. So this tells me we're in a bit of a rough position. We're actually in a terrible crossfire. But one good thing about the Napoli is that its concealment is almost near best in class at legendary tier. For a heavy cruiser, this thing is exceptionally stealthy. If you build into it with the concealment module and a rank 16 Gunichi Mikawa as inspiration, you can get down to 9.4 kilometers, which you can see is what I have right now. So this is allowing me to get into the cap unspotted, but that's when the Tulsa decides to push out. I don't know if he knew I was here. Looks like he's trying to turn away and avoid the worst of the damage, but he does take a citadel. And we decide we're not going to continue shooting at this point. We're going to go around this corner of the island, block the Tulsa's line of sight so he loses vision on us. There is still the Republique over there that we've got to worry about. And if we don't fire our guns, well, then our firing range, or rather our detectability, goes back down to 9.4 kilometers rather than our full main gun range, and we go dark, which gives us a little bit of time to think about what do we want to do. And at this point, we're thinking, all right, we are bow on to both the Alaska and the Kronstadt right now. So if we do get spotted and they shoot at us, we should be able to mitigate most of the damage. And both Republique and Tulsa are still hanging around here with potentially their broadsides exposed. But that's when the enemy Napoli comes through and ruins my plans. He's got our broadside, which is a problem. Thankfully, he doesn't do catastrophic damage. We send a salvo at him in return and get similar results. Then we launch the torpedoes, assuming that he will push forward and maybe take a couple of them. We've got to turn away now, though. We cannot go bow in here toward the Napoli. We'll expose broadside to the Kronstadt, the Alaska, or the Tulsa or Republique. We are really in a terrible crossfire here. We're pushed up very, very far, and this really requires a lot of map awareness in order to avoid dying. It would be exceptionally easy for us to be sunk here, and that wouldn't really be a good thing. You'll notice that the ship count is essentially even here. Obviously, we're far ahead on points because we have 3 out of 4 of the caps, but it is 4v4. We do have the advantage of having a destroyer, but, if I go down and some other people go down, this game could go south for the blue team very quickly. Our smoke screen runs out just as we reach the safety of the island, and we get the island on the left side of our ship, so that effectively blocks the Napoli, the Tulsa, and the Republique from shooting at us, potentially the Alaska as well, making it a 1v1 with the Kronstadt. Now, typically, you don't want to go bow in a cruiser if you don't have a route of escape. And, well, sometimes you're just forced to. I don't have a route of escape. I don't necessarily like being sat here stationary, just taking fire from both the Kronstadt and the Alaska, but if I reverse, I'll be giving broadside to the Republique, the Napoli, and Tulsa, and if I go forward, I'll potentially be giving broadside to those same 3 ships and the Kronstadt. So I'm really stuck here until the Kronstadt gets taken out. He's close enough that he can keep us perma-spotted, whereas the Alaska is hiding behind that island. So if we take out the Kronstadt, then we should be able to reposition without being seen and hopefully get a more advantageous angle on one of the remaining ships. But of course, the Kronstadt is a very tanky cruiser like us. He's got good armor, and he's got way more HP. He's managing to take out our turrets, too, with his armor piercing, which is quite annoying. We switch to the HE, though, because at this kind of angle, just bow on like this, the AP is really going to do nothing. And I think the Kronstadt would do well to switch to the HE, too. He is getting some overpen damage as his shells hit our superstructure and whatnot, but none of the damage is catastrophic. Meanwhile, we are getting HE pen damage on him and lighting fires to deal damage over time, which is reducing him quite a bit in the HP department. I think he's got a little bit less than 10k left now. He does have his broadside against an island, though, so that is preventing him, or it was preventing him from being shot by my teammates there, but he decided to pull forward a little bit, expose broadside, and he's dead. That's exactly what we wanted to avoid, and at this point, you might think, well, no danger in losing now, 946 points to 546, but you haven't seen the HP of my remaining teammates, and neither have I. That's when the Alaska, I suspect, or maybe it was the Tulsa, deploys the radar. We get spotted, but once again, because of our position near the island, we are not going to be able to be shot by any of the ships. The Alaska is similarly using island cover, and the Tulsa is pushing in behind us. So we do have to be careful. If the Tulsa pushes in all the way, it might make us go forward, which could expose our broadside to the Republique, and that's what we want to be careful about. He's on just the other side of that island. So if we expose broadside, we're probably as good as dead, having only 17,000 HP left. Luckily, there's less than 1 minute left to go in the game, so really catastrophic things would have to happen in order for us to lose, but I think the enemy team did sink one of the blue ships, so at least the game is going to play out till the very end. Shimakaze gets the killing blow on the Napoli. That Shima was actually a Chad, something you rarely see in this game, so GG to that Shima. I think he's actually going to get number 1 on the leaderboard while we get the second place. Of course, we do go out broadside in front of the Republique. You see how easy it can be to lose focus for a second and slip up in concentration. But luckily, we don't get punished for it, and we end the game with a good amount of XP, mediocre amount of damage, I would say, but also the Confederate and Dreadnought medals. This is the kind of thing I think you can really only pull off in the Napoli, but it just goes to show you how important map awareness is, because that game could have easily gone south for us. We could have been sunk very early on or midway through the game due to our very risky positioning in the center of a crossfire for the whole enemy team. But because of the concealment, good map awareness, and good positioning, we turn what could have been a terrible tragedy into maybe not the most impressive win ever, but a win nonetheless. Hope you enjoyed it. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.